I'm very pleased to open this meeting devoted to the BolognaRagazzi Award winners in the two categories, fiction and non-fiction. I want to thank you for being here with us, and I want to introduce you our guests. You will see from your right, Yael Frankel, author of text and illustration of the beautiful Todo lo que pasó antes de que llegaras, everything that happened before you arrived. The book published by Limonero in Argentina that was awarded with the award for fiction. And also with us, Manuel at my left, and Lulu Kirschenbaum, the publishers of Limonero. And I am also happy to have here Joanna McInerney from Big Picture Press, Bonnier Books, UK. Thank you for coming. And representing the book Art of Protest, who was awarded with the Non-Fiction Award. So I would start from maybe from Yael and the beautiful book that was awarded for fiction. And it's a beautiful metaphor also of children's literature. I think this baby whispering to a belly, something that is gonna happen. So a little bit with the anxiety and also with the desires, the wishes that are together combined when you are waiting for a big change coming in your life. So it's a little baby coming, but it's also a metaphor of the future, of something that we don't know that is life-changing. And Yael Frankel, you also had a mention last year at the BolognaRagazzi Award. Yeah. So for us, it's very beautiful to see the work of authors coming back with new books. And the jury really liked the style, the minimalist style in which this story is told. I have the pleasure of having here Riccardo Falcinelli, who is a graphic designer and writer and a professor of graphic, and he is one of the jury members who judged, selected, and awarded the books. So maybe I would start asking to Riccardo Falcinelli if you would please give us a comment about the book. And how did you like it?
Thank you. The first thing that I like that I loved of this book is the fact that there is a saying, no? You draw like a child, and we mean that you draw in a very stylized and a little bit tight way of drawing. And the amazing thing of this book is the fact that at first sight it seems drawn by a child, but it's not. There is a completely new invention of a way of drawing that resemble what a child would do, because it doesn't know how to draw properly. But what does mean properly? We have the idea of designing well, that is something that comes from the Renaissance. I mean, designing well is designing, drawing in a way that is so similar to what we see with the eyes, the photographic approach to things. And we started 200 years ago in the 19th century after Rousseau to appreciate the drawings of the children, and to see in that naive approach to shapes and lines, something that, I mean, in the past no one would ever appreciate it. So I think this is the strength of the book, inventing a new way of drawing that resembles something, but is not that something. It's not childlike drawing. It's really something, I would say, strongly poetic. And this is the thing that I love the most. And there are some very subtle choices in the book. For example, is all made by pencil, graphite. Is the main lines that build the books. And then you have some little quantity of turquoise and orange red, just sometimes coming here and there. And is a really, really, really beautiful book that did stand out among all the others. And I have a question for the author of the book.
Please.
Something that I strongly liked of the book is the fact that there is this child that talked to the belly of his mother, um, telling what is going to happen next, and telling the newborn, the baby that is going to be born, boy or girl, we don't know, what the world is like. But under the lines, I think we can pick some kind of fear or jealousy of what is going to happen next. I think this is the, the complex element of the book. It's not just the word. The word is beautiful. I tell you that it's beautiful because I have to reassure you, but reassure myself.
You're right. I think that happens the most when he said to his newborn, Dad and, sorry for my English, Dad and Mom, they take me to the school, but I don't know who will take you to the school. Let's see. I think in that phrase, he's also telling him, okay, you will be here, you'll be my brother or sister, but not everything will be so easy for you. Yeah, I wanted him to be a little bit mean, not a story about how happy an elder brother could be with a newborn. So I am answering you.
You have brothers and sisters,
Yeah.
okay.
Great, and I'd like to hear something from Limonero's friend Manuel and Lulu about how the book was born, and yes, I think it's working. Otherwise,
Hello,
I'm
yeah.
going to give you this, and so how the publishing project was born.
Okay.
At the meeting with Yael.
Before that, I would like to add to your words. I was thinking about that is a story about a boy that tells his brother to come about the word, but I think that is also telling about everybody, like when you arrive after to whatever event. So the story of what is important and what's not. So I think that's great of Yael work, that it's universal. It's not about new babies coming to the world. It's like, how do you tell the story of anything from your point of view and your interests, sometimes mean, maybe. But it's a universal. That's what I mean. I'm sorry for my English and my nervous way of being today.
It's really fine. That's really fine.
Okay. And regarding the project, we had the honor of work with Yael in The Elevator, another book of Limonero that we are very proud of. And so she came with this crazy idea at the beginning of a timeline that now it rests in the end papers of the book, and said, oh, I have this great idea. It's a timeline, and it's this boy that put this text to a brother to born. Oh, it's there. This is the, yeah. And we say, oh, that's fantastic. Yes, let's do it. Let's sign a contract. But, oh, and she said, I want to make a Leporello, you know. And we said, oh, Leporello, those books are great, but also so hard to read. Manu and I had this, I don't know, personal idea that we like books, like you can read as a book. So, but we want the book. We trust you, and we want this idea. It's great, but maybe you can work towards the idea of a diary or something like that. So we start working together, and she says, yes, great, that's a great idea. So she starts selling these great illustrations and text and everything. So, yeah.
That's great. And Manuel, would you like to add something about how the book was born, or your first impression that?
No, no ask back. It was an honor to work with Yael because she's so energetic and intense and creative. So it was a pleasure, really.
So nice. So thank you so much for that. I think that if we talk about the structure of it, this structure of the letter is very strong, and even the style that is chosen. I would like to ask you, Yael, if you want to tell us about your references, your artistic references. What are your favorite illustrators, for example? and your artistic references and also narrative ones.
Yeah, I have a lot of references. I think I love everyone because every day I tell my husband, oh, you don't know, I discover a new illustrator, and he says, you love everyone, and he's right. I think I love some things from everyone. Not everything from everyone, but some things from many people. And in this particular story, I think I should find a very particular line because I wanted to imitate a boy line. So I think that was the hardest part of the book. Imitate a child's line is very, very, very difficult. And there are some icons that we all know, like a house or a sun, like they style, the children's style, and we also have this in our minds, the sun that a child would draw is like this, and a house is like that, and I wanted not just an icon, I wanted a particular line, and I don't know how to say papel carbónico.
This paper
Papel carbónico
Carta carbone.
that
Sì.
you can copy.
Carbon paper, does it make sense?
Carbon paper.
Carbon
Okay.
paper?
Okay.
Grande.
Copy paper.
Copy paper.
Yeah. I use copy paper to draw everything there because the copy paper, it comes in black. So instead of putting white paper, the copy paper, and then again white paper, I just put white paper and then the carbon or copy paper and draw on it. So I couldn't see what I am drawing
I see.
because it is black and my pen is black too.
Sure.
So I like that. I just discover what I am doing when I get up that paper. And it came out like desprolijo, untidy, and discontinued line, and I wanted that.
Okay, so there is a specific gesture in it, and you can taste the quality of the gesture. Riccardo, what do you think
Yes,
about
I think
it?
it's fascinating the process that she just told us. And I remember when I was a student at the School of Art that I had a teacher who made us draw blindfolded to achieve something similar to what you just said. This is fascinating.
Very much. So great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I would go to the non-fiction book, but then maybe we keep some space from questions, so we go back to all our authors and publishers if you feel like it. And so the award for non-fiction went to this beautiful book that has a lot of authors. I mean, the text is by Nichols, but the illustrations are by different artists, and I would like to acknowledge them: Dagadita, Saddo, Olivia Twist, Molly Mendoza, Diego Becas are the artists that worked together to combine different signs, different gestures on the page. So Riccardo, if you like to give us a comment about that, I would love it.
Right. I always talk from the judge point of view.
Sure.
And, our task was to look at many, many books, more than 2,000. And there were more than one about protesting, activism, politics, and to introduce young generation to what means to take a position or make a statement about something that you care about. What was really convincing about Art of Protest is the fact that it gives you a historical background and a practical background about what has happened in protesting and in the relationship among art and protest and activism and politics. But there is never there is something that is patronizing. And I strongly appreciated that, because all the other books had this slightly patronizing approach to things. I mean, everyone who has something to say that strongly believe about that tend to be a little bit, I don't know if it's prescriptive, is it the right word? To say this is good and this is wrong. This is right and this is wrong. And there is nothing like that in the book. And for example, there are some pages that tell you how to do things. And the page always open with try this. And then there is something that you can do. Can you see if we have something? Okay. Try this. I really like this try this, because it doesn't say you should do this, do this. It say try. I mean, there is an invitation to do things together. And also there is another thing that this try this says, the fact that you don't need to be an artist to try to do these things. So it's a really book that teaches you how to use art and visual language to stand for something you care, but there is nothing hard. There is a gentle way of bringing people and young generation within these ideas.
Great, thank you. It's an invitation to act and to experience art and find your own voice and protest. So I'd like to hear from you, Joanna McInerney of Big Picture Press, Bonnier Books. I would like to know your point of view about the process of the book. How was it born? And many illustrators also. I'm very curious about that.
Sure. Can you guys all hear me okay? Yes. Good. Great. So this was a book that was something that we felt really strongly about in-house. We started working on it in around 2018. So this was prior to the pandemic. This was before the George Floyd movement. This was before Capitol movement in the US. And we were really inspired because in the UK and potentially, I guess, in the US and maybe here as well, there's a real movement to sort of discredit art as a credible topic, as something that is really important to teach young people, you know, as a tool, as a vehicle for change. So we felt really strongly that we wanted something that showed them the opportunities that they could have, and that they didn't need to train as an artist in a formal way, that they just needed to find their own unique voice. So for us, it was really important to have that sort of authentic thread all the way through. So we found Dee Nichols, who's an artist and an activist based in the US. And she's incredible in that not only does she work with young people, and exactly as she said, she doesn't have this patronising tone at all, but she also speaks from first-hand experience. So Dee, as a teenager, witnessed the shooting of a black teenager called Michael Brown in the US, and she experienced these nightmares, actually, where she visualised young black men walking through the street carrying a coffin made of mirrors, which were made of sort of shattered glass. And the shattered glass reflected those young men who were carrying the coffin. And she felt so strongly about this that she actually created this with her community. She reached out to local artists. They went through like trash cans and all sorts of things to find this material to make this incredible thing, which is now in the African American Smithsonian Museum. So she could really talk authentically about trying to find your own voice, trying to find your own materials. And from that, the book really evolved. We decided that the best way to approach this would be to work with 5 different illustrators who are based all over the world, who each had a very unique style. And that would show young people that there's no right or wrong way to talk about protest art. Everybody needs to find their own unique voice. And then to summarize those chapters, we had these activities that just really encourage you just to try things, like go out and paint things, rip things apart, think about color, think about typography, think about medium, and try and come up with a sort of collective voice. And Extinction Rebellion, I think, are a fantastic example of that. They've got such a strong identity that appeals to young people today. And that's something that really inspired the whole book. I think the United Nations in 2019, for the first time, held a youth conference, which again to us showed how important it was that young people are at the forefront of these movements, and we need to be really encouraging them with tools for activism. So yeah, that's a little bit behind it. It's quite long-winded, but we got there.
No, it's super interesting what you say. I was thinking also that in 1989, in the Convention of the Rights of Children,
Yes.
there are 2 articles that mentions the ability to access different type of stories and narratives and science and languages and media. And so that's the topic of the book also, I think. And it was very interesting what you said also about design. And maybe, Riccardo, you want to add something, because there is an interesting thing about the style. When we talk about illustration, for example, some young illustrators are, sometimes they are sad, they are told that they need to find their style. Or, for example, that they have always the same style as a good thing, or on the opposite, that is not a good thing. I see people nodding, because it's one of the questions, when you go and meet the publisher and maybe show your portfolios, maybe sometimes they look for a very recognizable style, or on the other hand, it's an ability, the one to express yourself in different styles. And in this book, I think there is a little discussion about that. No? Choosing many illustrators means something. So maybe you want to add something, either Joanna or Riccardo, about that, about the style in illustration, or the invitation to try, even if you don't have to find one style, but just the gesture is something.
Well, one of the quality of the book is the fact that you have a painterly approach, a graphic design approach, all mixed together, because there are some pages that resemble more kind of infographics, information, and others that are more, illustration with descriptive or painterly approach. I think this is a nice way of conducting a non-fiction book, because it gives you the feeling of something between a book and a magazine, in a way. No, I have a question for her. How do you meet the Nichols, and how do you decide to publish your book? Because you said before the process,
Yes.
but how did you meet?
I contacted her online.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time researching this project, and I was trying to find somebody who I thought could tell it authentically. And coincidentally, Dee had done a TED talk.
Can you pick?
Yeah,
Can you bring it a little bit closer? Thank you.
So Dee had published a TED talk, which I come across on YouTube in 2019, and that title of that TED talk was the same title of the book, so Art of Protest. And so from there we reached out. We spent sort of a year collaborating, and just really got on. She's fantastic. I couldn't have picked a better person for the book.
And why this cover is different from the one?
Interesting.
Yes.
So this is the US edition.
The book is the same.
book is
This is the US edition.
It's the US
Okay,
edition.
okay.
And it's just really to appeal to different markets. But the cover was so difficult because we have such a huge range of styles and a huge range of illustrators. It was really hard to say what's the definitive thing that summarizes this book. So the US decided the best approach would be to sort of do an amalgamation of all those artists, which actually I think is what we would do for the paperback edition.
I have to say this one
Yeah. You're gonna
does
criticise
resemble
the UK
more
stuff?
the content of the book.
Yes, I think for us in the UK, we wanted something that was a summary of the book as a whole, one movement, one sort of really distinctive cover, which would be really memorable, and then from there sort of introduce you to everybody else. But we took our own approach, and yeah, I think both work in their own way. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So if we have any questions, that's the moment, so we can keep on having our conversation. Yeah, thank you.
Hello, it's a great honor to be here. I would like to, Richard said that that he looks like the book as a new language. And I would like to ask you if when you did the book, you was thinking about, oh, I'm going to create a new language, something like that.
I didn't understand.
¿Quieres que te hable en español?
Sí, por favor.
Richard dijo que una de las razones por las que escogió tu libro es porque vio que tú creaste un nuevo lenguaje.
Ajá.
Y yo te quería preguntar si cuando en el proceso de tu creación del libro, si realmente ibas pensando en que, wow, estoy creando un nuevo lenguaje.
La respuesta es no. Sorry. The answer is no. I wasn't thinking about that. I was just doing my best to create what I wanted, what I had in mind, and I just wanted to be true. To be true as a child, not as illustrator or writer. I wanted that voice to be true, and no, I wasn't thinking about any languages, just the voice of this narrator.
Can I make another question? And when you were, cuando ibas dibujando, ¿alguna vez tomaste algún dibujo de algún niño que realmente él lo creó? ¿O todo es completamente de tu imaginación?
The answer again is no. No, I just tried to create what I told you before, the untidy line, discontinued line, and some kind of, untidy drawing for, not just untidy, but despreocupada.
Unworable, something like.
Carefree, yeah, that kind of line. I wanted that, a carefree line. Like if he were saying, I don't care what I am drawing, I just want to leave to my brother or sister this kind of illustrator and text for him, diary, kind of illustrated diary for him or her, just that.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
May I add a little thing? I think the main difference between the way of drawing of adult people and children is the fact that adults, when they draw, they have in mind that someone is gonna watch the drawing. Children do take the pleasure of the and you can feel this in these pages.
And I have a question for Joanna. Well, publishing a book about art as a protest or the artistic gesture as a gesture of protest has also a political implication, of course. And I would like to know how the book was, like what were the reaction internationally about the book, and maybe if this award brought something that you want to tell us about.
Yes.
You already sold it, for example. That was the question.
I mean, I will say it has been quite difficult. I think even in the UK, there was some trepidation around how we speaking to young people. Is this seen as like radical? But it's absolutely not. It's just a book about art, and it's a book about non-fiction. It's also the author's personal experience. It really resonated with the US, and actually the project was evolving all the time. So even as we were writing and commissioning the artwork, events were happening, and we wanted this book to be current. We knew that certain territories this probably wouldn't be a book for them, and we still felt it was important. Actually, I think this is an example of publishing. Big Picture Press does really well in that we think it's important. We want this book to exist, and actually, regardless of sales, although it's still important too. We want this to exist. So it was met with critical acclaim. It was generally very positive, but I think knowing that was in the comfort of the UK and the US and most of Europe, took a little while to pick up in Asia. We also had to think carefully about where we were printing the book. So there were a couple of considerations there. But actually, on the back of the Ragazzi, we've had so much interest. I think publishers that were originally quite nervous about this have now completely changed their minds, which is fantastic.
Okay, that's very good to hear that because of course the BolognaRagazzi Award want to acknowledge the work of publishers and authors, of course, and their courage, their research and the innovation they bring and the commitment they bring. So I don't know if there's any other questions. If you want, feel free. Or otherwise, I want to acknowledge, I want to remember you that you can find the books in the publishers, of course, stand, and also in the exhibition, the amazing bookshelves, where you find more than 100 books that were admired from the jury and from the organization, so on display. So you can know more about the book and you can read it and find it. Thank you very much for coming, and thank you to our guests. Thank you. Thank you.